Hey guys, it's me, Kaluna Sims. I'm back with a speed build. I haven't done one of these in 300 years because I just didn't have the video editing software to speed it up as much as I needed to because I'm a very slow builder, but now I do, so here we are. I'm building this house based on an exterior picture that I found on Pinterest because apparently I'm a soccer mom, except that I'm not a mom and I don't play soccer, so there's that. Um, but it's this really cool Victorian style home, and I saw the picture and I just really needed to build it in The Sims, so I thought it'd be perfect for a speed build. I will upload. I'll put the link to the Pinterest pin in the description. Sometimes those links don't work very well for whatever reason. Pinterest is kind of weird about them, but I'll do my best. You're gonna see me mess around with this roof a lot. It was really tough. Before we get too far into it, I do want to mention that I do also upload just the exterior part of this house as a shell challenge on my gallery. The only rules are the front exterior and the right side exterior, which is what we're looking at right now, cannot be changed, including plants that are climbing the side of the house, just because I really like how it comes out in the end and I'm a little bit selfish. And you also can't move the stairs or the interior walls that I place, which is part of the challenge of making the floor plan. That's why it's a shell challenge. If you just want the unfurnished version and don't want to do the challenge, that's chill too. But if you do the challenge, there is a hashtag in the uploaded version on the gallery that would be really cool if you wanted to use, so I could look at your really cool shell challenges, because I would love to do that. Um, but this Victorian home, the idea is the Sims moving in, once I get to the furnishing part of it anyway, want to keep to the historical historical accuracy in this home as much as they can, of course, with some modern touches to make it comfortable for them. So you'll see a TV and a computer in there, for example, and a thermostat, whatever. Um, but I think this house could be really cool for one of those decades challenges. Because it's a Victorian home, you could easily remove the very modern touches to this house and then add them in as you go through the years. I just think it'd be really cool. And with Growing Together coming out soon, it'd be a really cool family home too, maybe, except for the fact that it's haunted. We'll get into that. Here you're just seeing me finish the exterior, at least in terms of windows and doors and stuff. I had a really hard time picking the little round window I wanted up here because I really wanted stained glass for the aesthetic, but it just didn't look quite right on this house. And again, those back and left side windows you can change out as much as you want, but the right side over here and the front you cannot if you do the shell challenge. And here you can see a little attic I'm throwing in as well, and you'll see me making basically what is uploaded as the shell challenge. You'll only get a slight peek of it, so that wall and those stairs can't be moved. I'm going to add the bladder upstairs with a wall, and then there's going to be some downstairs ones that I throw in really quickly that you won't see. I do replace these hedges outside with actually the live edit object taller hedges, and there are some planters with pink flowers I'm going to put along the front of that fence that are live edit objects, and I believe the mailbox is also debugged, so you might actually have to replace the mailbox that I put, unfortunately, if you play with this house. I'm not sure if it's usable. I highly doubt it is. And I'm only mentioning the other debug items for you because if you go to edit this house and you want to keep those items, don't delete them or you're going to have to go through a whole hunt through the build by catalog to find those things again. So these climbing vines on the front you can't change, but the ones on this left side that we're looking at now you can fully delete, except for the one on the corner that wraps around the front because that's editing the front. But yeah. And the right side, you can't delete any of those. You have to leave it as viney as it wants to be. You have to leave the vines. I'm sorry, but you gotta do it. Those are actually in the picture that I used. I was just really proud of how close I actually got it, which is why I want to leave those for the shell challenge. But obviously, again, if you want to just furnish it yourself and not do the shell challenge, delete whatever you want. Go for it. It's your game. That mailbox right there, I think, was debugged, so just be careful if you delete it. I really like using live edit objects in the very front and the very back of the house because Sims can walk through them so they don't actually block anything, which is really handy. And I liked those bushes because they looked a lot more overgrown than the ones that I used. And this house, again, is supposed to be an overgrown home that needs some TLC. And they're still in the midst of doing it, but liked how it looked enough to move in. You'll see some cracks thrown on the walls in a little bit here and all of that. But I just wanted to give them a nice garden that looks like it used to be really heavily manicured and pretty, but is a little bit wild. And here you'll see me stacking up some old coffins and crates in the attic because guess what? Surprise! The lot challenge on the version of this house is that it is haunted. It's not a haunted house for the paranormal pack stuff, it's just quote unquote spooky, so ghosts will come in. But it is haunted, and there's some story elements in how I build, which I'll talk about actually in the build tour at the end. You can delete the stuff in the attic if you intend to use this as a shell challenge. Like all that junk I threw up there, I just put them in there for a laugh because I thought they were funny. But here's me putting in my floor plan. So we have a foyer, we have a hallway, we have this tiny bathroom under the stairs, which I believe the toilet works, but I haven't actually play tested it. And then off to the side here, we have that one awkward space in the corner that was part of my build challenge that I actually make into a pantry, which was not my original idea when I put that wall there. I'm not going to tell you what that idea was because I don't want to like stifle what you were thinking of doing if you were even thinking of doing this. I don't want to mess with your creativity, but I changed my idea entirely, which I thought was really cool, and it becomes a pantry. And that little spot next to it, I actually shoved one of the pre-made closets into because I don't know, it felt right to have a closet in the living room. My living room has a closet. Most living rooms I've been in have closets. So I think that works. Maybe it's just me. But you'll see me using a lot of these chandeliers and a lot of vampires items throughout this build because they're the Queen Anne style. There's not as much base game Queen Anne style as there is, as you would think. So the Vampires pack was perfect, and there's actually some werewolves items and Get Famous items that are also the Queen Anne style, which is what I was going for the Victorian theme, which was really cool. And you saw me trying to cover up those ugly cushions on that couch and ultimately failing. But if you have some CC, which I do, to cover that, I would highly recommend doing so if you want to. You don't have to, but I just think those cushions just really don't suit it. And there's a lot of CC cushions out there that really would, that are just like plain cushions instead of those weird flowers. Which the flowers look great in other builds, just not this one. And here you're going to see me struggling with curtains. I use the free kit, the Desert Luxe kit curtain rods you'll see in a minute here that I struggle with them for quite a while to make it look like one continuous curtain that you could pull all the way around. Of course, they're a little bit small to like be too convincing, but it's as close as I'm going to get without fully covering the windows. And because it's a Victorian style house, as you'll see, this house is actually pretty dark, which a lot of older homes are just because of the room shapes and how few windows they have and the lighting and all of that. And I will talk about why I'm putting curtains over mirrors in the build tour at the end. There is a very specific reason for that, and that I thought was a really cool detail to add. Maybe you'll think it's really nerdy and dumb, but you know, that's okay. And in a minute here, you're going to go see me going around adding radiators into certain rooms as well that I forgot about because, as I said, I am trying to make it like they're renovating a historical home, and when you buy historical houses, there are certain rules you have to follow. So I'm trying to make it look like they had to do that too, which obviously they don't because it's The Sims, but you know, it is what it is. And here, this kitchen, because I made that space in the back a pantry, it was kind of awkward to put a bunch of stuff in here, but I think it actually ended up looking really good. So you have this really tall cupboard here, and I end up using that corner as a microwave corner, and then I make a little sink and coffee station on this wall, and then the rest of it's actually for cooking. So you have the stove, you have room to cut things up or prepare food, and the fridge, and of course my tried and true, the thing I do in every house, the cookie jar on top of the fridge. I always do it. If you've ever had, I also put pet treats up there. If you've ever had pets or children in your house, you know exactly why. I used to have this Border Collie German Shepherd mix who would team up with my cats, and the cats would get on the counters and knock off bags of cat treats, and the dog would rip them open. He was the best dog in the world. And they would just eat them all up and then pretend they didn't do anything wrong because they're naughty, naughty little animals. I miss that dog so much. He was great. But putting him on top of the fridge prevented that. Hence the cookie jar and the pet treats that I would put on top of the fridge in my Sims build. It's just a detail that makes me happy from that kind of memory about my silly little dog and his pact with the cats. I also like to put cookbooks on top of the fridge from time to time. So I did do that. And that little nook in the back, you saw me put another sink in there. I actually hid the indoor trash can in there as well. And I just made it have a little bit more function than just being like a pantry that you can't actually use in gameplay. And yeah, and I replace, I believe, one of those plants with radiators going forward. You're going to see me bouncing around really quickly here to do that. I do make the living room as Victorian as I can, except of course for that giant TV screen But the bookshelves are Queen Anne. The fireplace is Queen Anne. They probably don't need the radiator I add into this room with the fireplace there, but they get it. And you're going to see me in a minute move that second window a little further over so the curtains fit better. However, that window is on the back side of the house, so again, for the shell challenge, if you wish to do that, that is perfectly within the rules of the shell challenge. You saw me put that globe bar actually in the dining room like really quickly 2 seconds ago, but I'm actually going to put it back in the living room here because it just doesn't fit in the dining room and it's a nice touch for a living room. And I think with growing together, we're getting an upright piano, and I think it'll look better in this room than that big grand piano does because this house is not a mansion, it is a family home. So the grand piano is a little bit too big. I've been watching Pirates of the Caribbean a lot lately too, so that's why there's a ship on top of the fireplace because, that's just what I was feeling in the moment. So you get that in this house if you download the furnished one. And you get to remember, oh, Kaluna Sims was watching Pirates of the Caribbean and that's why there's a random ship here. So you're welcome for that. This house might actually be functional off the grid as well with a lot of the items I put in here, like with the candles and the chandeliers, and I believe the stove and the fridge that I use are functional off the grid, and that toilet with the pull string is. And I believe there is a version that does not have a pull string that can fit in that closet if that toilet's functional, that you can also replace that with. So again, for a decades challenge, this house would be, I feel like it'd be so good for one of those. I've never actually played one, but I no, I'm not opposed to doing it. I would just need a lot of CC, and I don't have the time to shop for it. You're going to see me putting a ton of clocks in this house because I never decorate with clocks and I love decorating with clocks. I used to all the time when we just had like a few packs, and then we got more, so there were more clutter items I liked better. But going back to my roots here with all the clocks everywhere. And again, I told you I would discuss why I'm putting curtains over the mirrors in the build tour at the end. It's actually a really cool little fact that I threw in there because I like throwing those in there. And you'll see me struggling here. I was trying to make the foyer continuous with this hallway with the decor for a while, and then I was like, well, that's silly because if it was going to be one continuous room, why would I have put this archway in there? So I did end up making them two separate spaces. So this is just a hallway with a little seating area and some little knickknacks. Again, you can replace that radiator with a plant if you want a little bit more oomph in this hallway. But I do make the foyer and this hallway fully separate. And I move that rug so they look fully separate. And there you're seeing me adjust those windows and everything so that the curtains fit a little better because I liked the other curtains more. I was trying to put in a more Queen Anne style toilet into this bathroom, but it just wasn't fitting, so we just ended up going with what we had. But I did replace the sink with one better. Some of the furniture that was in here initially was just placeholder, so I remembered what room was supposed to be what when I was making the floor plan because I have the memory of a goldfish. Here we're in the master suite. I did nice creams and whites and light blues in the Queen Anne style because those are very calming colors for a bedroom. And I figured with a room this big, you wouldn't want anything super overwhelming in here, but you do have some nice decorative touches as well. And the bathroom is the same color. And this bathroom that we're decorating in, like the ensuite bathroom here, is going to have the same items and decor as the main hallway bathroom, except the main hallway bathroom is actually black and white. And there's one extra furniture item, and it's the little storage thing from base game for towels and whatnot because it's a shared bathroom and you should probably have one of those. And we're looking at it right now. I'm using the classic black and white checkered tile, which I almost never use, but it was perfect for this little bathroom. And here we have a study, which I struggled with this a little bit because I wanted a whole wall of bookshelves and I didn't quite know what to do with the desk, but we get there eventually. And again, if you're trying to do a decade challenge, all you have to do is delete the computer off of this desk and then you have a nice study to have meetings in if for whatever reason your sim needs to have meetings. Of course, the desk doesn't actually work that way, but it looks like it could, which was the whole point. And then this was the teen room. I was trying to find a double bed with a good pop of color, which is why that is yellow, but it wasn't really that much of a pop of color, so feel free to change that. There's a nice single bed that you're going to see in a second in the kids' room that is very colorful if you want to replace your teen's bed with a single bed if you're sticking to the Queen Anne theme, or just do whatever you want. I don't care. I don't care. It's fine. I gave them a guitar for a little hobby to do. And here's the kids' room. That's the single bed I'm talking about that has some color that's a little bit more fun for a younger kid. This room is going to end up very, very pink with a lot of toys. Oh, and I'm just adding a rug in there. The teen room is very bland. It might be better as a guest room the way it's decorated now, but hey, to each their own. I wanted a double bed because that room was big enough to fit one in. And then we're going to just finish decorating up in here with a little journal and some other clutter. And then I'm going to decorate this hallway. And in just a minute here, when I'm done with this hallway, we're actually going to hop into live mode for a build tour. So I'm going to leave you with some background music for the rest of this speed build.
Hey guys, we're gonna go into live mode here just to do a quick tour of this house, and I'll make it actually quick this time. I tried to record it 2 other times and it got really long. But first, this mailbox is a debug item, so you might need to replace it when you hop into the gameplay if you download the furnished version of the house. And probably the Shell Challenge version of this house has that mailbox as well. So we'll go up in here. I love these doors from Strangerville. And this is our little entryway. We have these chandeliers everywhere. We have this little coat hanging section and shoes and these mirrors. And the mirrors downstairs all have curtains on them because there is a belief that if you have 2 mirrors facing each other, they can create a portal to the spirit realm. And this house is already haunted. So they're going to do the best they can to prevent it from being more haunted. And you'll also see in every room there is a radiator. You can delete them if you'd like and put a plant there, but because it's a Victorian build, it felt very thematic. In the hallway, we have a little sitting area with some books just to sit down and read. Again, a radiator, the stairs that go upstairs. We have this little nook with a grandfather clock, and this creepy curios case that, because I use so much vampire stuff, just seemed very on point and just a little bit silly. I have not play tested this toilet where it is, but I believe this is tall enough for Sims to actually stand under and sit down on this toilet. If it's not, I apologize. The sink is going to be usable because it's not under the stairs. That's why the light is directly above it. We're going to go into the formal dining room. You can see lots of areas for tiny knickknacks on the shelf here. We have this long table that seats 8 Sims. Again, the classic radiator, and I love using these couches and bay windows. I almost got some custom content to cover those ugly pillows up with, but I didn't because I wanted people to be able to find it on the gallery easier. So feel free to cover it yourselves. Again, a mirror with some curtains and a little bar. These go outside to the side yard. It's pretty empty. There are some planters around the back of the house where there's a little pathway that wraps around, but there's nothing really in the actual yard. This is the kitchen. I put those cabinets really high up, which if you're short like me is horrible, but also even more horrible is when they're not to the ceiling, and if it's a real cabinet, it will collect a crap ton of dust. Nobody wants that. But I have this little sink area over here. There's so many doors in this room that the cabinets are kind of split up, so I had to get a little creative with it. And there's a microwave over here. Along this wall, which is the biggest continuous wall in this room, we have the fridge, we have the stove, and we have plenty of room for chopping up. I kept to the Victorian antique theme as much as I could with that scale and the appliances I picked to put in here. And of course, I like to think of this book stand as recipe books. It's a vampires thing, so probably it's not. It's probably something more disturbing, but we can make believe. And this parenthood board may or may not be functional with that radiator underneath it, but if you really want to use it and it's not functional there, just delete the radiator. And then I made a little pantry in here. Some of those jars and things may be floating because I used move objects to raise them up without using the Dream Home Decorator shelves to get them in the perfect position, because that's kind of a pain in the neck. But you have a lovely pantry with a little sink, and that's where the trash can is tucked into. There are also some custom content packs that are great for cluttering up a pantry even more if you really like having a cluttered pantry in your house. It's not usable, but it might be fun to add. We have the living room through here, a grand piano. I stuck this here, but with Growing Together, we're getting an upright piano, which actually might suit this house a little bit better than the grand piano does. A grand piano is dramatic, but this house is not a mansion, so it's kind of awkward in here. We have the chess table. That globe over there is a bar from Vintage Glam. That one's Vintage Glamour. And if you don't have that, I think City Living has a globe that's the same size. That's just a globe and not a bar. But you can see the very Victorian style couches and bookshelves and the fireplace. The modernization in here being the giant TV screen where they probably hung a painting when this was a more Victorian home. And if you like to play those challenges that are like the decades challenges or whatever, you could easily replace a lot of the very limited technology I've put in here with things that are a little bit more time appropriate. Up on the landing here, we have the, of course, Victorian style dollhouse. It's sized down to one tile, and the dollhouses are still functional at that size. We have this little corner here, which may be the reason why this house is haunted. There's a crack at the bottom of the stairs, and it's very easy to picture someone just coming out of this room really fast and just falling over that railing. So be careful. Anyway, this is the child's room because that's the best spot for a child to be. You got your desk and your Queen Anne style bed, but it's very pink and still very childish in a way that the rest of these rooms are not. They get their own vanity and a blarfy and a block table. And of course, you can clutter these up even more and make them more to your Sims taste as you play if you download this house. This is the main, this is the study. It's very small, but you have big bookshelves. You have a desk where you could have 2 Sims come in for a meeting if you want to, and the computer. And again, to demodernize this room, all you would really need to do is delete the computer. Okay, the next room is the main bedroom. I know this house. I totally built it. I did, but I don't know where I'm going. They also have their own vanity. Very big blue bed. I did a lot of blues, whites, and creams in here because it seemed very soothing. And the bathroom is also blues. This is all vampires and get famous and base game items. And very on theme for this house because, of course, the Sims in this room are the ones who bought the house and they want it on theme. Is this the room we were in? No, this is the downstairs bathroom. It is the same decor as the ensuite bathroom. It's a little bit of a bigger bathroom and you have this extra storage in the back because it's a shared bathroom, so I would think you'd need a little more space for those towels. Oops. Last but not least, the teens room or a guest room. It's a little bit bland for a teen room. I picked yellow to have a pop of color, but I don't really think that it worked. But I was trying to pick a Queen Anne style bed, so I would recommend replacing some of these things if you really want your Sim to have like a very colorful extra teen room. There's some plants sticking through the wall that I couldn't get to behave when I was trying to fix them, so they're just there, but you can cover them with a picture if you download this house as it is. Or you can have the patience to move them 1,000 times, because I tried and they kept popping down. And these guys have a guitar. I try to give most Sims an activity to do in their rooms, just because it seems like a nice thing to do. And we have this one tile desk that is actually Queen Anne style. It's from the Vampires pack. I always get really excited when we get new one tile desks because we don't always have a bunch. Now upstairs is an attic, and it's just a bunch of junk. We have boxes, we have old coffins, we have crates, we have all of these seasons decorations everywhere. And we also have the decoration box. I do this in pretty much every house when I play, either in a basement or an attic, is make a storage space. Because, one, it's more realistic if you like that, and two, if the stuff isn't in your family's family inventory, you don't get billed on it as much because it's in the house. At least I don't think you do. That could be incorrect, but I feel like everything that's in your family inventory gets taxed really high. Maybe it'll still be taxed because it's in the house, but you know what? It's a theory. I've never actually cared to do the math. But anyway, here's the house. You can download this furnished version on my gallery. There's also a shell challenge version of this gallery, on the gallery, where you can make your own floor plan and decorate it however you'd like and give it the TLC it deserves if you want to do that. The shell challenge does not have any lot challenges or lot traits put on the house, but the furnished one does, just as a heads up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and you can, again, download this from my gallery. Like, comment, and subscribe for any feedback you want to give if you'd like to do so. And I'll hopefully see you all next time. Bye!